Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tiger Minor League Report tool series. As we're kicking off the series with the hitting tool, I'm Rogelio, so beside me is Chris Brown. And so this series is something that we started a few years ago, and we wanted to revisit and make sure it's part of the consistency of what we do going forward. So we posted an article. Chris did a really good job of posting an article today. You can find it over at Tigers Minor League Report, and you can follow along. So how we're going to do this tonight is we're going to take the rankings 5 through 1, and we're going to go kind of minute by minute on each player. And then from there, kind of go elaborate and a little bit more in depth with each player.
Yeah, the basic idea would be to do just a quick. I figure the shorts have to be 1 minute long, right? This is a pre-show meeting during the show. Although, were they expanding to 3 minutes or something?
Yeah, they're expanding 3 minutes. So yeah, we can segment. Yeah.
Well, the basic idea was we would just do a very quick, like number 5, this guy, number 4, this guy. Try to get that in a minute, and then we could cut that up later, and then we can discuss further with all you guys, more about all this. So that's the basic idea, real quick. But yeah. I mean, I'd like to go further into depth on the article. You talk about last year's article, talk about kind of the methodology, such as it were. But I don't know if we want to jump right in and just do the 5.
Yeah, let's go with number 5, Jace Young.
Yeah, so Jace Young, it's not a traditional above average to plus hit tool, but we saw a little bit of what he can do in the big leagues. Now the power was completely gone, but it's well above average plate discipline, and he makes solid contact. If the power does come back, he's got a chance to be an above average offensive player overall. Number 4 is Max Clark, and it was really close between number 4 and number 3, Hayu. Max Clark didn't make the list last year, and he got off to kind of a slow start. But what we saw from Max Clark this year was consistent adjustments, and he looks like a guy who he's going to be at least an average hitter, I think, down the line, possibly above average to plus if he keeps making adjustments. By the end of the year, he was spraying line drives all over the field, had no trouble with velocity, anything like that. So promising tool there. Number 3, Hayu. More aggressive than anybody else on this list, but makes really good contact and for the most part makes good swing decisions. Got probably average power, maybe a tick more if he's just to the pull field. And he's got a good 2-strike approach, and he really battles his at-bats. He fouls off pitches. He goes the other way, and it should add up to at least an average hit tool down the road. Number 2 is a guy who's been tearing up the Arizona Fall League, Jose Briceno. Just a kind of a hitting savant, when you think about it. He's actually a month younger than our number 1 hitter, who is also very young. And it's just tons of hard contact. It's kind of funny. He didn't do well in the home run derby, but he's been awesome in games because that's the way his swing is built. He's just built for hard contact, line drives, and he's strong enough to put it over the fence. And I mean, you're looking at a potential future plus hit, plus power down the road, if not more in each category. And number 1, Kevin McGonigle. Not a whole lot to argue about with Kevin McGonigle as a hitter. He's got plus to plus bat to ball skills, a near elite plate discipline. He led all minor league baseball in walks to strikeout ratio, and he's just got an innate feel for the barrel. So he's not terribly strong, but he knows how to get the barrel on the ball, and with his bat speed and with that feel for the barrel, he's going to hit some home runs too. So I think he's got a chance to be like, I have no trouble putting like a 70 on his hit tool, which is really lofty. I can't think of another Tigers hitter that's been that high.
Yeah, and it's in terms of McGonigle, one of the things about Kevin McGonigle is the reason why we can feel confident with that hit tool is the fact that you look at, okay, well, Roger, he was in the Florida State League, at the league where you have the ability, inferior competition, what have you. It doesn't matter. I mean, he has been able to, if you look at it, what his size has been able to do, he can always find the way he fouls off pitches, the way he just his whole entire approach at the plate is that he just kind of grinds out at bats. But the fact that like his eye at the plate too, you can tell that he started to kind of challenge himself a little bit towards. You're talking about adjustments with Max Clark. What I liked about Kevin McGonigle is that he was looking for more challenges before he even got called up to West Michigan, and he got off to a slow start too at the Whitecaps.
Yeah, in his season was kind of interrupted by 2 injuries, one at the beginning, one at the end. And he didn't really miss a beat as soon as he got into pro ball there, full season ball. But yeah, when he got called up to West Michigan, that was the thing. He wasn't making contact as well as he was earlier, but it wasn't like an issue of like he walked 11 times and struck out 4 times, right? Like he wasn't expanding the zone, he wasn't swinging and missing. He was kind of getting some bad BABIP luck and adjusting to the pitchers. And that's the thing. Like he had the lowest swinging strike rate in the organization. It basically, like, you can get him to swing and miss at a changeup early in the count, maybe, but you're not going to get him to swing and miss at the same pitch twice in an at bat. He's got really good aptitude for picking up on what pitchers are trying to do to him, and even beyond that, he's got the ability. And Clark is similar, that they will take strikes early in the count if they don't think it's a pitch they can do damage on, which is kind of advanced feel. So there you see him pulling his hands in on an inside pitch and driving it over the right fielder. This is part of a 4-hit game, I think, although one of them I think was a little aided by Florida State League Sun. But you get a feel. Yeah, so here's the little pop-up. Actually, that was just it's just a bloop, not aided by the sun.
Texas Leaguer.
Yeah. He's taking a walk, which is something he does fairly often, as we said. And there's just a sharp liner back up the middle. Like you saw that over and over and over and over again. He just puts the barrel of the bat on the ball. And he actually, his average exit velocity was higher than Max Clark's. It was not that far away from Jose Briceno's. It's just everything you want from a hitter, aside from maybe, plus power. But like I said, I think he will get to at least average power down the road just because of his feel for hitting.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think what I like about, as far as like McGonigle's game too, that it really stands out since he's arrived, really, is the fact that the Tigers got a lot of praise for getting him in the draft, and it was the first time you saw that in a while where it was like, wow, man, this McGonigle. And we're familiar with him a little bit in the circuit side of things, but the Tigers really got a tremendous value in McGonigle when they drafted him, and in just terms of just hitting the ground running right out of high school. You don't see that. It's kind of rare to see that among the Tiger system in the last. I mean, of course, there's Nick Castellanos comes to mind, or Nicholas Castellanos, whatever his name is these days. But the emphasis on high school bats, it's okay when you get the results like Kevin McGonigle.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about he was the 37th overall pick, so he's their second first rounder, but almost the 40th pick in the draft. And on most services, he's now a top 50 prospect in all of baseball, and it took him one season because he's just such a good hitter. And you could see, like, you see the clips. It's a really simple, short, quick swing. The bat is just headed right toward the ball. He just knows what he's doing, and yeah, it's going to be exciting to watch him. He was an honorable mention last year, I should say. That this list, we collaborated a little bit, but this is my list. I ranked him, so I'll take the blame for things in the future. We didn't do it like the way we did our prospect lists, where we kind of average our grades or anything like that. We just kind of, I asked you and Jerry to put out your lists, and then I just kind of went, all right, this is what I like. And as we do other lists and somebody else takes that's if you want to do power, or I'll do power, whoever, we're free to do that. But that's just the way it did. It worked out. And we'll see that somebody I left off the top 5, I asked everybody in Discord, I asked you, everybody else had Thayron Liranzo in their top 5, and I didn't. And so I'm gonna have to answer for that in the future. But for now, was that there's McGonigle. More. This is a video from Jeff Ponce, I think.
Yep.
And that may actually be from when he was in the Complex League, right?
Yeah, Complex League. And I so as far as Kevin wants to know who he would compare him to, I would say maybe a Chase Utley type, kind of the way, in terms of like his approach to the plate, swing mechanics a little bit too. I would have to kind of take a look at it. It's been a while since I've seen Chase Utley play. His speed too, like down the base path, he moves pretty quick, and so that was another thing that I liked about him a lot. As far as Paul wants to know what first player would make it to the big league team in AA. Well, in terms of these guys among these hitters here, among these, I'm going to have to say Briceno here at this point. McGonigle might not be too far behind though, so it really depends on where they're going to put him in position wise too. But we got Christian Yelich there, Chris. Kevin.
Well, yeah, I mean, Yelich is just taller and I think has more power, but no, I in the article I made a point of saying like the Tigers haven't had a hitter like this in years and years. He's somewhere along that like Tony Phillips, Placido Blanco, Ian Kinsler continuum, where he's going to walk a ton, he's going to hit for average, and he's going to hit for probably solid to average power. You could, I mean, you don't want to be blasphemous or whatever, but you could even go like Lou Whitaker, like as a guy who's going to walk and strike out at the same rate, hit for average. I don't know if he's ever going to hit, the way that Lou did with power, but he's that kind of hitter. And it's, again, we need to see him against more advanced competition and need to see him keep performing. But everything is there, I think, for him to be a really quality big leaguer. When I talk about like current comparisons, I've said before, I think Ozzie Albies is maybe a decent comp. There's like we talked before, there's like a non-zero chance he's Jose Ramirez, where he just completely learns how to pull the ball constantly and hits 20, 30 home runs. I wouldn't bank on that, but it's possible. And there's also a chance that the power, doesn't really develop and he's more of a Stephen Kwan. But Stephen Kwan at second base, I think would be pretty good. So
I think all day. Especially what you saw Stephen Kwan did against the Tigers in the postseason. Just a pain in the ass. He was a bigger, and don't get me wrong, Jose Ramirez was a pain in the ass too. But Stephen Kwan was a major pain in the ass. I mean, it didn't matter where he could put the ball anywhere. And that was the one thing about that postseason series against Cleveland that stood out to me was Stephen Kwan being a giant pain in the ass. And you want to have, that ability to be. The Tigers haven't had a annoying hitter type. They really haven't. And this is a guy who would be a pain in the version of a pain in the ass. And I really that's the. Even talking to him, when we talked to him, it just seemed he was one of our first interviews we had last year, and just forget the kid's only 19, 20 years old. I mean, he has a very mature approach to him. But by the way, shout out to Austin, who I remember seeing him at a couple of Great Lakes Loon games, being the one fan that rooting for the Loons in the middle, right, I believe right around the home plate too, as I recall. So good to see you in here tonight, Austin.
Yeah. I don't know if Austin was the one who found Roberto Campos's monster home run a couple of years ago, but I don't know. You could argue. I think some people might argue that if somebody else above McGonigle in the system, but it's hard for me to put anybody else above him right now. We'll see what happens down the road. I'm expecting another solid year from him, though, for sure. And I don't know. It's a good thing to have there for sure. And then Jose Briceno, number 2, went for 5 for 5 today in the AFL. He's now hitting like 430. He's just absolutely taken the AFL by storm. He looks like he's going to be the first AFL hitter to ever win the Triple Crown, which is kind of wild. There are people you can go back, like the stats on official stats at MLB only go back to 2005, but Baseball Cube has them back to 99, and you could find like Ken Harvey hit 479 one year.
Ken Harvey, wow.
Yeah, and Brandon Wood hit 14 home runs one year, and they're outlier players, but it's really rare for anybody to do everything on offense. And Briceno he's just swinging a magic wand out there. Like you see right here, that's just a bloop single, but then he followed with a pair of doubles and 2 more singles, and it's all hard contact. Yeah. It's line drives. It's the whole field. He's not all that different than Kevin McGonigle. The swing and miss is very slightly higher, but you would expect that from a guy he's like 6'4". McGonigle is listed at 5'10". He's probably closer to 5'8". So you're talking about Briceno's, 8 inches taller than McGonigle and swinging, missing just slightly less. And what he has, obviously, that McGonigle doesn't is supreme strength. It's not. I don't think he's got like a super quick bat. It's not like lightning bat speed, but I think it's good enough. And he's just so strong that there's a liner up the middle. it's so you combine the strength and you add the combination of his strength and his bat to ball skills and his plate discipline. He's another guy who's going to walk about the same amount as he strikes out. Maybe, as he goes up higher levels, the walks will drop and the strikeouts will rise, but it's not going to be an issue, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, the sky's kind of the limit for him as an offensive player. And it's been really, really fun to see the rest of baseball go, who the hell is this guy? Because we were talking about him a year ago, and we just kind of missed out on him because of Lakeland, having the knee injury.
Yeah, and the other thing too about Lakeland too is that, I mean, Max Clark and McGonigle got to. You recall Max Clark actually got to a slow start, but it was Briceno and McGonigle that were carrying the offense early on in Lakeland. And another thing too that stood out last year in the postseason was Briceno was hitting the ball hard when last year he was hitting the ball over 100 miles an hour each time. And again, I know that it was somebody asked us earlier. It was of Deadly Ninja Beats, what do you guys look for when you compare guys at different levels? And that's a very good question. But heading into this, so if he wasn't doing this, by the way, I don't know what that play was there. I don't know what the center fielder was saying on that.
That's Denzel Clark, I think, who is a very talented player in his own right. I think, it looks like it's probably fairly sunny there. He may have kind of misread it because the ball was heading right at him. That's supposedly the hardest play for center fielder. Yeah, I mean, some of these hits aren't all legit knocks, but they count. So,
I mean, the power is there, and one of the things too, Emily Walden, who's out there, been reporting, doing a fantastic job, by the way, giving some feedback on Briceno and Thayron, who have become really good close friends and kind of have a buddy relationship there. The biggest thing about Briceno too, I mean, of course, he is a left-handed bat, so there's that kind of thing where, okay, the Tigers need more right-handed power, and again, that's true. But if the guy can hit, it doesn't matter what he's going to do. In terms of like long-term position-wise, I think there's going to be still an adjustment for him at first, because the fact that here he is, he was catching, and then I don't think you're going to see him as a catcher anymore, based off that knee injury. I know that when we talked to Ryan Garco, they were pretty set on him being a catcher, but at this point, I think that was before the knee injury.
It was before Liranzo.
Yeah, Liranzo happened, and I mean, there's a swing right there. The swing is just a very beautiful follow through. And one of the things too that you talked about bat speed earlier, I think, as I recall talking to Jeff Pontus, Baseball America, that is, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the concern, right? Bat speed there, Chris?
Yeah, they thought maybe it was more a strength over bat speed profile at the time. And, that comes into play when you start dealing with premium velocity more frequently. And so that may still be a concern down the line, but he's faced plenty of good arms in the AFL, and it has, it'd be one thing, maybe he's getting most of his home runs and knocks against breaking balls or cutters or, changeups or whatever, but he's not getting blown away by fastballs by any means. So I think it's not really a concern of mine right now. We'll see once he gets up to, higher levels, but yeah, I think there's enough there. And just with that strength and the ability to use the whole field, as you see in that slow motion video, that you don't have to worry about it as much, right? He's not going to get the ball knocked out of his hands by any means, or the bat knocked out of his hands, as it were.
Yeah, and that's to me, it's kind of like the man strength right there. It's just kind of like the ability to. I like that Matt Wood here.
Combinate.
Result of combining two or more components like that. All right.
Is it actually a word?
I mean, you're the English major. Or, well, no, you wrote the journalism there, but
hey, combinate is a word. I'll be damned. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, combinate. That's why a couple of years ago, I'm sure I brought this up on the show before. I learned that fantasticate is a word. It's basically to tell a lie.
Really?
Yeah. He fantasticated.
Here, I just want to look at just break down the swing here. Just let me see if I can slow this down even more. Yeah, I can slow it down a little bit.
I mean, the bat speed looks pretty good there. I'm not gonna lie, but it's good balance, and you see really,
It's what I like about his foot is his front foot here. Just no wasted motion, just kind of like.
And not a lot of head movement with this leg kick and stuff like. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like about his swing. I'm excited. I think he'll be heading to West Michigan I think Dan Hasty gets to call Scorpions game tomorrow, although I don't know if Briceno will actually be playing. So, but yeah, it'll be fun to see him up here in the Midwest League, presumably. And
that's gonna be the adjustment there, Chris. I mean, and the other thing too is you got to remember too, where the Whitecaps play, LMCU ballpark is a cavern, and they are expanding it too. And that's another thing too. Like I remember Dan Hasty. One of my favorite quotes of the year was he was talking about the difference between Erie. We're just talking about. He was like, Erie ain't got nothing compared to our center field. I'm paraphrasing what Dan Hasty said, but he's spot on. I mean, he's right. When you hit at West Michigan, I mean, if you hit some home runs, they're not cheap. You get rewarded for that. And so if he's mashing the ball at West Michigan, that's a very good sign. I mean, you look at the power numbers between people get discouraged, like, oh, he only had such amount of home runs. Like Keith, for example, Keith didn't really hit a lot of home runs at West Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
But then when he got to Erie, it was a different story.
Yeah, I think, he was starting to get to the power, but a lot of it was on the road, as I recall.
Yeah.
And I think the new dimensions are going in this year, but we still don't really know how the ballpark's going to play, and I doubt it's going to suddenly turn into, the Great American Ballpark. It's still going to be a tough place to play in the cold weather, and but yeah, I don't know. Given what he's done, I wouldn't shock me if he performs pretty well and isn't in the Midwest League for that long.
And let's go move on to Hayu Lee and having a chance to talk to Hayu Lee earlier this year and him talking about hunting for fastballs and his approach to what he was trying to do at the plate and be aggressive. And that's the way he was he really was kind of a player this year that, unfortunately, with his back injury, he had a back injury, and it's speculated he had a back injury. And so one of the things that hindered him a little bit was also he got hit in the head twice.
Yeah. In the span of like 10 days.
Yeah. I think it was about the same pitcher, right?
I don't remember. I know one of them was the Somerset guy. Maybe it was by the same pitcher. I don't know. But yeah, it resulted in an eventual bench clearing incident because but yeah, he's an exciting hitter. Really had a nice breakout this year that, again, did get kind of lost because of those injuries. He missed the final 4 or 5 weeks of the season, maybe more, but ended up the second highest WRC plus in the organization, 141 behind McGonigle's 144. Hit 298, and he was above 300 for a while. He got really hot in May, I think, and we're still playing well in June. Yeah,
Sewell's offense,
and he's like we said, he's an aggressive hitter, but it's kind of a controlled aggression. It reminds me a little bit of Colt Keith in that regard. Like, he's going to swing really hard at pitches in the zone. He will chase a little bit. I mentioned that, particularly the slider is away, and I think more advanced pitchers we're going to, feed him a steady diet of that. But he does show the ability to hold off at times and foul off close pitches. And I think you saw one of the first clips in this highlight was him poking a single to right field. He's adept at doing that. I think he's at his best when he's pulling the ball for power. Not at his best. I should say that's obviously the way he does the most damage, but he really can hit the ball to all parts of the field or parts of the field. So I don't know. He's a guy that I didn't feel comfortable putting more than like a 50 grade hit tool on him, just because in the future I think the pitching is going to get better, and you probably drop him to being more like a 240, 260 hitter, depending on the year. But that's plenty good with average power and playing second base or third base somewhere. I think that'll and some speed. I think he's going to be a solid big leaguer.
Yeah, and I know Harris is a big fan of him and was kind of upset he wasn't in the top 100 ranking. And I had a chance to ask him about that at the end of the year. And one thing about Lee too is he is a red ass, and that's kind of like, what does that have to do with your hitting tool? It seems like the best hitters, like Wade Boggs, was a red ass. I mean, some of the best hitters, Pedroia, red ass.
Yeah. So he's. I keep saying it, but the next Tigers player who's going to charge the mound is Hayu Lee. It might not be this year, it'll be next year, maybe the next year, but he's just a feisty guy, and that aggression is there in the batter's box, and I don't know. Yeah, like he just feels like a guy that you're not going to sneak a first pitch fastball by ever. Like you're not.
No.
He's going to be ready for that and crush it. So I don't know. He's another exciting young hitter in the system. It was tough for me between him and Max Clark, honestly. But I went with the guy who's performed slightly better at a higher level.
And speaking of Max Clark too, he is already off to a very good off season, continuing to work on his game, and that's one thing that you mentioned earlier, Chris, about him being kind of a working and kind of tinkering a little bit. But Clark is always working on his progress here, and in addition to being a really good follow on X, looks like he's getting he looks like he's getting stronger too. Look at his lower legs too. He's a lot of that swing he's been working on too is just kind of compact. Really does a really good job of. I think one of the things that I liked him about, what I saw about him this year in Lakeland in terms of his approach at the plate was going the opposite way and doing it to cause other baseball things to happen, like moving a runner over. These little things like that. That's a smart hitter right there.
Yeah, in the piece I said he has that it factor. He seems to step up in big situations. He seems to understand scenarios in games. He doesn't struggle. He dominates left-handed pitching so far. There's a lot there. The only thing that like holds me back a little bit is just that it does feel like he's still working on finding that ideal swing, and he's been talking about not even having an ideal swing, having multiple swings for multiple shapes. He's doing all that stuff online, and that's fine. Like he's a guy. I'm not worried about him figuring it out, but it just isn't quite there yet for me to put him ahead of some other guys. But you can see, and I don't know if we got these clips here, but at the beginning of the year, it seemed any fastball, it could have been 91, it could have been 94. It was the result was batted balls just like that, the one we saw, kind of a weak grounder to the left side. Now he actually beat that one out because he plays super hard, but that was like everything. And throughout the course of the season, he actually he changed and he started pulling the ball, and I was and not just pulling the ball, but like you said, using the entire field and hitting it hard, line drives. He was really good at hitting the ball down the left field line. And there's one that I linked into the article from a game that I was at against Beloit, where he was facing, I think his name is Jeremy Eknes, who was throwing 97 to 99 with a pretty nasty breaking ball. Like he was one of the better relief pitchers I saw all season. And Clark got 98.7 at the eyeballs basically and drove it over the left fielder's head for a double. And I was like, damn, that's impressive. I don't know. Did you find it? Yeah, here you go. So I'm at this game, like this kid is throwing hard. And he just casually hit it 330 feet to left field. I was like, okay. So again, yeah, like all the ability is there. It's just in the work ethic is there, and a lot of the results are there. I just kind of waiting for him to put it all together, if that makes any sense. But yeah. I'm not concerned about him not doing it.
Especially that reliever too. But which, by the way, speaking, that was a guy who like just plowed. Like he basically plowed that entire lineup down. Didn't he? Like strike out. Yeah, he made work of everybody. Yeah,
I mean he was the right-handed hitters had no chance. Basically, it's a tough look for them. So,
and Paul points out, and very astute observation here by Paul. Look how the swing differences here already. You can tell his hands are a little more in than. But I mean, again,
but it may be that is the swing he's going to bring with him to games. But I think he might have multiple swings for situations, like different swings, different setups in games and in the batting cages. He's working on different things, and so he may be like, "Hey, here I'm just working on driving the ball here," and so. But yeah, it wouldn't shock me if he comes out next year with a slightly different swing and is making more contact or maybe hit for more power. Like it's all in there. It's just like I said, he just needs to put it all together. And he's not even 20 yet. I don't think he turns 20 till September.
Yeah,
that's what's fun about the top four of this list.
All under 21.
Yeah. Max Clark doesn't turn 20 until December 21st. So, yeah, McGonigle turned 20 in August. Briceno turned 20 in September. Hayu Lee is 21. I think he turns 22 in March, maybe, or maybe June. Let me look. Yeah, it's significantly younger. He turns 22 in February. So much younger than last year's list, which we can touch on in a little bit.
Yeah, there was because we had a comment on Facebook. Whoa! Look at Stan. Hey. You know what, Stan?
Off the Frickers building. Off the Frickers building.
Good Lord, Stan. Thank you so much, man. Do you want to come on the show? Do you want to come stay the night at my house? What do you want?
Yeah. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you, Stan. It's amazing. I appreciate it.
Deadly Ninja Beast.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say. That's remarkable.
Thank you.
I
biggest donation we've ever gotten. So thank you.
Yeah. Maybe I hope for Stan's sake that maybe he accidentally put an extra digit in there. But whatever.
Or maybe he's feeling good. Maybe he's feeling good. Okay.
Anyway, what we were talking about the young players, and
we're talking about the top 5.
Yeah, and I guess the next 4 or the number 5 is Jace Young, and this one, honestly, we put 5 in the honorable mentions, and you could probably put any of those 5 here in this 5th spot, and I wouldn't complain because none of these guys I project to really have an average or above average big league hit tool. And, I've not been terribly kind to Jace Young, and I'm still kind of skeptical, particularly against velocity. But, the numbers are the numbers, right? Like, I don't want to, when you consider that he's a guy, he didn't spend a ton of time at AAA, and he was hitting well and hitting for power until the wrist injury. And then the power just went away completely. And I think there's something to that, right? Like, I don't think he just suddenly stopped hitting for power. He's hit for power every year of his pro career. And not every year of his career that we know of him, like college, he's got power in his bat and he's got patience. And I think those combined will allow him to hit a little bit. And there is some feel to hit there. Like I think I posted the video of his first big league RBI, which was in that, I believe it was in the Williamsport game, right? And it was a nice hard single the opposite way. Which was a nice piece of hitting. So, like, I don't have a ton of confidence in Jace Young's bat, but I think there's enough there to warrant putting him 5th on the list.
Yeah, and there's a thing where I think that people, like, I know that it was one of the things where it was so focused on his glove, come up playing third in a position that he was just brand new to. The Jace Young Discord bullying paid off for him, but no, but there's a hitting tool. There is a hit tool there. Mm-hmm. My concern is that if it's just the ability to continue to adjust the velocity and kind of the advanced off speed. But there was times in Toledo too where he was able to just go. He was going line drive, just kind of dropping in a lot of line drives there that end up. Kind of, I mean, when he hit a bomb, he hit a bomb, but it just seemed like he was more becoming comfortable hitting the gaps in Toledo.
Yeah, and we shouldn't discount also the fact that he's basically playing a new position.
Right.
He didn't play third base until this year for the most part, and that's hard. And I don't think he's terribly good at it, and I don't know what the future holds there. But I think there's enough hit, patience, power for him to be an average offensive performer down the road. And so that's why he made the 5th on the list. We can kind of power through the honorable mentions if we want.
Yeah.
I will, but before that, I will just circle back to last year's list. The top 5 last year was number 1, Colt Keith. Feel fairly good about that. Yeah. We had a tie at number 2, Justin Henry Malloy and Justice Bigbie. And that one's the bummer because Bigbie didn't even make this list at all because of what happened this year. And honestly, he didn't change. It just, I think he just kind of topped out at AAA. It's once pitchers could locate inside consistently, he couldn't do much against it. And that's unfortunate because he still hits the ball hard. He still has good patience, but not much power. And he's getting older. He was already, older for a prospect. So, and then number 4 was Winsel Perez. I think that worked out okay. And then 5 was Jace Young. So Jace Young has been 5th 2 years in a row. Honorable mentions. McGonigle got an honorable mention. Briceno got an honorable mention. I think that worked out okay. Yeah. So, but the thing you notice there is this year's list, as we said, is much younger than last year's list. Now, Colt Keith and Winslow Perez aren't terribly old, but Parker Meadows did not make that list because we weren't super confident in his hit tool, and he impressed us all this year. So, anyway, just felt like go back and checking our work, as it were.
Yeah, and that's something we take a lot of pride in. And as far as like some of the guys that Framber Montoya, who just really, I mean, he had a really good postseason after struggling in Lakeland in the adjustment in Lakeland, but he is a guy who really burst on the scene this year, and it was another international guy, which the Tigers we're starting to see that too. And I'm glad that you mentioned too. I think you mentioned this Enrique Jimenez, and he does kind of as far as a guy who can really as terms like another catcher potential. We'll see how he continues to make adjustments, but it was just good to see more international guys. Jesus Pinto, Jose Dickerson, which I'm hoping that we can kind of see. Hopefully he makes the adjustment or see him in complex league this year. Because again, we've said that it's like almost by disclaimer. What you see in the Dominican Summer League numbers may be deceiving.
Yeah. It's with him. The results were pretty good. I think he hit about 280, walked a bunch. Didn't show a ton of power, but he's 6'2" and like 180. So you'd like to think there's going to be some more power down there. And there were some nice reports from Baseball America that, he looked good, made the All-Star team. So yeah, he's got to look forward to coming forward. That was, it's tough with hit tools because we've seen plenty of guys, Raylan Perez tore up the Dominican Summer League a couple of years ago. Right. And hasn't done much since he came stateside, but some other guys have, the honorable mentions, we threw Roberto Campos in there. I think he had kind of an under the radar year. We've talked about it before. He hit 272 in the Midwest League, which is not nothing to sneeze at for a 21-year-old. And he was significantly better on the road. Again, as we talked about, LMCU ballpark is not a great place to hit, at least for a power hitter like him. So he's interesting. Jake Holton was number 5 on my list for a little bit, but then I couldn't justify putting him in over Young. Young's younger. Young made it to the big leagues. But Holton is kind of a similar player with really good patience, good bat to ball skills and above average power. His downfall is being a first baseman. That's not enough as a first baseman. You have to have pluses or else you can't really do it. We mentioned Mattia. He was really overmatched when he got up to low A Lakeland. You could see it. He was working counts, but he was just taking a lot of strikes and swinging and missing. And then he got locked in. Like he really locked in the playoffs and had a couple really great at bats in the playoff series.
But some guys too. I think one of them was a rehab guy too, right?
It may have been. I don't remember who he was facing, but I do. He had a huge at bat as a right-handed hitter. I think he's a little bit better right-handed right now than left-handed. And that right-handed bat, he worked a full count and then smoked a triple down the right field line and then scored on the next. It was a leadoff triple in like the 8th inning, and then he scored to tie the game. Exciting young bat. We'll need to see more from him. But yeah, the future ones are always tough to predict. We put Bryce Rayner on there, figuring there's a reason that he was taken as a top 10 pick. And we'll see what happens when we finally get him to see in games. He was taking some swings with Max Clark, so that was good to see.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a good way to start your pro career too. And so Bryce Rayner has that makeup. He has the physical tools to have that kind of thing. And a guy we're actually going to be talking to tomorrow, Carson Rucker, could be on this list at some point next year too. This is Rucker really had a good hitting collegiate career, or excuse me, a high school career in Tennessee. So we'll get a chance to talk to him, and he's a good mixture of power and hitting. So power will probably be my next. I'll probably end up doing some of the power list coming up here. But power will be our next installment. So we have power, we have speed. Then what am I missing?
Defense, and then we do some pitching stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of power, we should, I guess, touch on I mentioned it earlier that Thayron Liranzo was the guy I did not put in my top 5, but just about everybody else did. And I may end up looking foolish on that one. I think was a little too swayed by his numbers with Great Lakes, where he hit 220 over what, like 70, 75 games, something like that. But it's hard to argue against what he did with the Whitecaps and what he's been doing in the AFL. You know, he isn't hitting for the same kind of home run power that Briceno is, but boy, when he hits them, they go. And he hit one in the Fall Stars game to win the MVP, and it was just an absolute bomb. And he hit another bomb today. He went 4 for 5 today. He's having an outstanding AFL. For me, like I said, it was just looking back at him hitting 220 over 74 games, with a 26% strikeout rate, with Great Lakes. But over 26 games with the Whitecaps, it was 315 with a 23% walk rate and a 17% strikeout rate. So I love to believe that he's the guy that he's been with the Tigers, and maybe he is. And in which case, I'm going to look pretty bad. I still think it's probably ultimately a below average pure hit tool, but it's going to play up because he's not going to chase and he's going to hit for a ton of power. So I don't have any problem with that. But if he has an average hit tool, then man, look out.
Yeah. And that's where, like, there was one thing too that we remember the first games I saw him too was in Lansing. And Lansing's one of those things where you're always like, oh boy, what at Lansing has been a stadium where just the craziest things happen. And we saw Thayron there, and he was just hitting everything, but just mashing everything. And so it wasn't like it wasn't any cheapies, if you will. And that's where you kind of look at his approach at the plate. It's really kind of like that. We talk about the Victor Martinez comp. That's fair. The way he kind of drops the bat head in there like that, and the follow through too. There's a lot of his mechanics too as a swing approaches here. Like just it's a nice little way he tucked his hands in and around that too. Same thing. Just I like his. I definitely think that his hands are, for being his size too, just really quick through the zone.
Yeah, no, he's a guy I do think has plus bat speed to go along with plus strength. So he's a guy that's like I have no problem putting like 70 on his raw power. He's hit multiple balls above like 112. Yeah. He crushes the ball. And yeah, like that game we saw in Lansing might have been his best game as a pro. I think he hit that deep home run to center field, did another one deep off the wall. A really exciting player, and he's getting good reviews for his catch and throw skills, at least in the fall league. And in the Fall Stars game, he caught the last couple of innings, and he's, I don't know if it's framing or not, but he got like 5 or 6 borderline strikes in a couple innings. I was like, damn, I don't know if this ump just wants to get out of here or what, but so I don't know, if you can improve the glove a little bit and, the mobility a little bit, he doesn't need to be your primary catcher, right? But if he's a guy who can catch every third game, that's hugely valuable, and that bat's going to play. So yeah, really exciting one. I just couldn't justify putting him on the pure, like the hit tool list. That's it. Maybe he'll be there next year. Maybe he'll be number 1 if he goes out and hits 300. These things are fluid. One other thing I'll say, you were playing that clip from today's game. It's funny. You can go and listen. The color commentator, in between innings, they don't turn off the mics, and you could just hear him dropping F-bombs in the background. It was great. I was like, oh, should I clip this? I don't think so.
There'd be some good audio there. Stan, his arm's good. Like, he has a really good arm. He's demonstrated the ability. It's just what I've talked about this. We talked about this with a little bit with just working on the side to side and blocking the ball. I think he could be better at that. But if you were talking about this earlier, Chris, with the framing, if he's getting better at that, that's just, if he can be just an average catcher, that's fine. I think you can live with that, because then he's going to bat if he's going to bat with that bat over 300, potentially over 300, then you're in business with that. And so I think that the Tigers have made, again, remember this whole thing about like whether or not they were, he was the actual target or not will always be forever debated. But that being said, it still worked out for the Tigers anyway, because he's been able to just give Detroit some much needed catching depth, but which they really don't have right now at this point. I mean, I thought Hicks was a good pickup too. Whether Hicks is going to be probably a work guy or not, I don't know yet, but we'll see. But he has a good eye at the plate as well.
Yeah, I think it's pretty comfortably a plus arm in terms of strength. I don't know about, the exchange, the release probably could stand to be a little bit quicker, but with the arm strength, he's going to catch plenty of guys stealing. So that's not an issue. Like you said, it's just kind of cleaning up some of the blocking the balls in the dirt and things like that, which you hope he can do in time with more work. He's also still pretty young, so he might get even bigger and stronger and may have to migrate to first or DH. But I don't know. The bat might be good enough to do that. And like you said, maybe he wasn't. Maybe that package wasn't their first choice. But this is why you have scouts. You have scouts who go out and say, we like this guy, we like that guy from this org, we like this guy, we like that guy from this org. They go out and sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you get, Cole Reagans for half a year of Aroldis Chapman. Sometimes the other team, sometimes you get Reese Olson for like 12 innings of Daniel Norris. Who knows what teams are looking for and what they're willing to do. I think that Dodgers are probably pretty happy with their World Series ring, and the Tigers should be pretty happy with their power hitting, patient, switch hitting catcher. So, yeah, I don't know. It was a good one. But that's our hit tool list. Hope people read it and enjoyed it.
The link. Oh, sorry, Chris.
I was just say, as we said, we've got other ones coming soon. Power is always a fun list. Speed is I don't know. It's harder to write about speed because there's only so much you can say. Like, oh, he's fast. Yeah, and you dig up home to first times, and it's going to be a lot of the same guys from last year. But I think it's helpful for fans to kind of look at the tools too, and sometimes there are players who aren't prospects, but they have pretty spectacular tools that deserve mention. Jose de la Cruz.
Not to mention too, with the Tigers, with the speed factor, the Tigers are becoming more of an aggressive team that's stealing bases anyway. So that's actually another angle to look at too, in the sense of, yes, you don't have to be the quickest guy to steal bases, mind you, but having a quick first step you have to have some sort of level of speed. And so even can talk into speed about being a smart base runner as well. So there's some interesting. I mean, of course, Taft Stevenson is going to probably be the clubhouse leader, of course, in that department. But there was a couple guys who came out of nowhere. The Patrick Lee came out, had really good, chose a lot quicker. But remember that play he made in Lansing, Chris, where he was,
Well, he's got a really good arm too. That's I mean, I'd forgotten about it, but I remember we tweeted out that the Tigers this year had the most number of players with 20 steals in 50 years. Something, I think that's right. They stole all over the place. Dom Johnson, Workman, Clark, David Smith, Jim Jarvis, Navigado had 20. Bly Madris had 20 steals. Valade, Malgeri. McGonigle's got some speed. And so I don't know. We'll talk about that when we get there, but it should be fun. Hopefully people keep tuning in for these lists.
Yeah. So we'll have the Power One coming out hopefully by the end of the week. A couple of other house cleaning announcements. First and foremost, I'd like to congratulate Chris Brown as the newest chapter he's a newest member of the Baseball Writers Association of America. So he is going to be part of the Detroit chapter. We had Tom Gage formerly of Detroit News, retired, wrote a really good book with Lance Parrish. You should check out.
Oh yeah.
We had a vote. We had lunch at Nemo's last week. I got a chance to sit down. We all voted, and so Chris is part of so Chris will have the same kind of now locker room access that I do, and we'll see more games, and which kind of leads into my next thing, which the next housekeeping thing is that a couple of changes on the way with the website. We're going to be getting a little more streamlined. So if you're familiar with the Justin Rogers Detroit Sports football website, rather, we might be going to that kind of model. We're going to be kind of change things up a little bit so we can get to more games. So we can, kind of, instead of getting donations, having people just pay one time a monthly fee. So if you're familiar with that website, that's something we're going to be looking to. And also, we talked to some people that are interested in investing in the website who have some baseball experience. So there's going to be a lot more. Man,
I want to know what that was. That was good. I don't know
Sarah, everybody heard you laughing. You know that, right?
It was great. I want to know what it was.
Yeah. Everybody heard you. Everybody on the podcast heard you.
But like, you gotta hear this.
Okay.
All right.
Well, can I finish the show first?
But I want to hear it too.
Oh.
When I breathe or swallow.
Whoa! What's that all about?
When the Zonktop driver whacked me in the throat, he contused my larynx.
You gotta see it. You just got a big bruise on her throat.
Yeah, give or take a couple days, but he said it's gonna get worse.
But her voice is like
Can't
a
wait for it to
dude.
get worse.
Yeah.
You know how her voice is.
Yeah.
Not like a
Anyway.
What show is that?
Is it Tacoma? Yeah, Tacoma FD.
Oh.
But
Gotcha. All right. Oh, very good.
yeah. So anyway, so website wise, we're gonna be doing some changes, and we're gonna be like I said, streamlining things a little bit. Where we're not actually donations, but we're gonna get people to. It's just a better way to service everybody. And we want to make sure that we're doing this on a regular basis where we're not burned out, or we were able to just kind of go out to games more games. So the ability to draw that kind of thing. And I think that everybody's been Stan with that very nice donation. But if you look at the way Justin Rogers has done, I actually had a chance. I want to thank Justin Rogers too for taking the time to talk to me about this and everything. And then Gary Gillette, who is the president of Sabre chapter here in this, is also going to be part of this. So there's going to be some changes on the website, some good stuff. We're going to be doing content pretty much every day from here on out. Well, not here on out, but coming soon. It's just like there's some things coming down the pipe, and we're just trying to organize everything and, of course, put everything together. So with two guys now in the Baseball Writers Association, we want to make this a part-time job that is consistent. And I'd like to make this my full-time job, but I'm also realistic about that. But at the same time, we want to continue to deliver high-quality content.
It's all about the content. Yeah. But yeah, no, thank you everybody for the kind words there in the chat, and thanks to all the people who approved me joining the Baseball Writers Association. It's an honor and a privilege, and I will try not to make a fool out of myself and everyone else. No promises, but it's I don't know. I'm excited. You know, this subscription model is always it's tough. You got to strike the right balance, but it does. I don't know. I hate the idea of locking some people out, but I like the idea of like, as you said, being able to monetize it to the point where we can get to more games and provide better content and do it right. So
yeah,
that's just, it's the way it's got to be.
Yeah. And again, I think that just, in terms of voting P roads, and of course we'll definitely do that at some point when I get to my 10 years, but it's, as Chris McCoskey said to me in the past on the Chris Brown, don't fuck this up. That was one of my favorite lines that Chris McCoskey said at the luncheon. But all jokes aside, but it just, we want to get to more games this year. We want to be able to, we've built a lot of good relationships with people as well. And we want to make sure that in the way that Justin Rogers has done it, it's like tip of the cap to him. And he's just as same age as me. I found out too. We had a lot in common. It was really weird how much we had in common. Like I did not realize like we're all the same age, different. He was at M Live when I was gonna get hired at M Live, right. And so I was telling about that story about that. And so, anywho, we've ranted long enough. But we'll be, like I said, the Power Tool is something we're working on. For now, check out all the great content over at TigersMLReport.com. Check out the Emily Walden's live looks from Arizona Fall League. Again, thank you for Emily for going out there, and she's been a very good collaborator, and she's just been very receptive on everything out there. So shout out to her. And go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's done articles on Jake Miller and Jose Briceno so far. She's got one about Liranzo that'll be out tomorrow.
Yep.
I don't know if we can get one from Rainer Castillo or not, but either way, she's out there and she's getting a bunch of good content. So thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah. Also, Jerry did a really good job.
Yes.
Jerry did a really good job on school. That was a fantastic job there.
Anyway, I don't know. There was a lot of angst on Tiger's Twitter and Tiger's Blue Sky today. Because they're in the last couple of days, just because of, the only things that are coming out right now are kind of suggesting that Tigers aren't going to sign anybody or extend Skubal and all this stuff. And that's stuff we can go into in greater detail At
Yeah,
a
we'll
later
probably
date.
be doing. Yeah, we'll be doing either probably the podcast this week with
You.
Uber. Yeah. So but I don't know. I was thrown away like somebody saying rest in peace, Willie.
Willie
Horton passed away?
Willie Hernandez? No, is it Willie Horton? Oh, wait, is that what happened?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to find out right now. Oh, that's weird. Okay. Anyway, we'll find out afterwards. All right. We'll talk to you guys later. We'll talk to you later this week on a Motor City Metrics podcast. Oh, Willie Mays. Oh yeah, duh, Willie Mays, of course. Willie Mays. Yeah, we haven't. We forgot. We talked about them a little bit on the podcast a few months back.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say I thought somebody died just recently, but yeah, you know what? That's gonna probably happen. I have a feeling about that. There's just
I think it's gonna happen to all of us. Oh, and Alec Bohm emergency pod. Well, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Or maybe Nolan or pod. We'll see. We'll talk to everybody. We'll talk to you guys on Thursday. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you again, Stan. You're the man.
Yeah, thanks, Stan.